Range in the market, and also back in the August debate over whether there's going to be a soft landing or the Fed can head off something worse or not.
Stephanie, why the turnaround in equities today?
Well, we talked about bad news being good news earlier, right? I mean, it's like the data hasn't been that good this week, and I don't expect the data tomorrow to be that great as well. Remember, though, the ISM is a sentiment indicator, so how could you not expect it to actually start to roll over a little bit? But the speculation was that maybe this forces the trade talks to get something done. Not a huge deal, but even a détente would probably be pretty good. And then again, the probabilities of the Fed going after today is 90% for in October and 60% in December, and that seemed to appease investors for now. Plus, we got way oversold. So I don't know if I trust this bounce, quite frankly, and I'm not really doing very much. I'd have a little bit of value. We talked before, a little bit of growth, and that's just the way I'm playing at this point.
You know, speaking of rates, though, let's get to Jim Bianco, because you did have a somewhat controversial warning this week for investors who might be looking for higher yields on Treasuries, saying that could cause a steep sell-off. The bond move has been an interesting one, I think, James.
Yeah, it definitely has. Look, if you look at the top 20 economies around the world and you look at all their interest rates, over 200 interest rates, the highest interest rate in the world right now is the 30-year Treasury at 2.03. That's it. There's one yield with the two handle. Everything else is 1, 0, or negative. So if you're reaching for yield and you want to know in 2019, what is a really high yield? It's 2%. What is a bone-crushing high yield? Go back a year ago when the 10-year hit 325, we had a 20% correction in the stock market. I think people have to realize in this world of no inflation, thank you technology, big savings rates because we're all getting older and there's a savings glut, Ben Bernanke coined that term, that now 2 is a high yield, 3 is bone crushing. We're not going to see 4 or 5 unless there's real problems in the world. And that's why I said if you're waiting for 4 or 5, you're not going to like it if the circumstances that are going to cause that to happen. And the stock market and risk markets can have a real problem on their hands should that ever happen.
So what should you be waiting for? Should you be waiting for 1 on the 10-year? Is that a more realistic assumption?
Yeah, I think, 1, maybe less than 1. There's no reason to think that those yields are going to go up big. Yeah, they'll ebb and they'll flow. There'll be trader talk. They'll be oversold, overbought. But the trend has been unmistakably down. We're only 10 basis points away now from the lows we saw in August. And there's no reason to think that we won't go there, if not lower. The 2-year note made a new low today, too. It's the world we live in right now. There's no inflation. There's an excess demand of savings. And yields are going to just continue to trend lower. And thank God they're not negative like they have in Europe.
Mike, once again, Russell 2000, the small caps underperformed today. What does that tell us?
Very brief respite yesterday. They outperformed in a down market. It's the same story. I mean, they're not the best positioned companies in terms of preserving profit margins, in terms of their credit profile, and just in terms of general risk appetites. If you look even within large cap stocks, what does the market kind of prefer right now? It's great balance sheets, very predictable growth, and sort of a long-term secular growth dominance as opposed to, a cyclical, smaller type nimble play on those things.
Well, let's get back to Bob Pisani for some of the biggest losers of the day. Bob?
Yeah, oversold conditions, rate cut odds improving, trade optimism. I agree with Stephanie. Those were the reasons for the rally, but a lot of stuff held back. We did have moves off of the lows, but don't kid yourself. I just want to show you some sectors here. Banks are down 4 days in a row. All right, we saw some modest rallies here in some of these stocks like Fifth Third, but all of these stocks here you're looking at are down 5 to 5.5%. Just this week, even with modest moves off of the lows. Airlines, another group. There's been a lot of comments from analysts recently about cost pressures and falling demand, higher labor costs. That caught up with some of them today. They're on the weak side. Energy, I don't know if anyone's noticed, oil's down 8 days in a row right now. It was $60 a week and a half ago. It's $52 today. We did have some moves up in Marathon, EOG. Don't kid yourself. This morning, these stocks were at 52-week lows, bouncing off it, but still quite a bit of a laggard in the energy space. Guys, back to you.
Yeah, Bob, important to point out with Marathon, you do have a couple of activists in there, and Elliott and D.E. Shaw, and there does seem to be a growing sense that they may get what they want, which is a split of the company. So that has actually been performing well lately.
They're all, though, acting horribly in the last several months, though, as oil has moved down. None of these stocks are outperforming on a relative basis.
Stephanie, how closely you're watching something like weekly rig count numbers, which we'll be getting again tomorrow. I mean, we've started to see some declines there. I think back to, I was in Midland, Texas, the last time we saw oil collapsing a couple of years ago, and the stat that was cited to me is that for every rig that goes up, it's up to 1,000 direct and indirect jobs. Now, I don't know if that stat still holds with all the technology and automation we've seen come into the sector, but overall, when you see the weakness in crude and in the oil patch, I wonder how much that's weighing on manufacturing data too.
Well, it certainly is, and it probably hit the ISM numbers, right, as well. So, no, I mean, look, the rig count has been coming down, but not nearly as fast as it needs to come down. I think it has to come down a whole heck of a lot, and that's what oil prices are absolutely telling you. So I think you're going to continue to see that. It was encouraging today, even though oil was down, that the stocks were up. I don't think, maybe it was a dead cat bounce, but they were up pretty nicely in a very fairly defensive tape. So I'm going to be watching that. I'm watching the industrials actually acted a little bit better as well today, which was surprising to me. Again, maybe it's a bit of a dead cat, but there are some really good stories out there. In fact, I just recently bought a new position in the industrial space, Emerson Electric, which I know David has done quite a lot of work on.
Yeah, Emerson is another name that's in the activist crosshairs right now. We'll see whether they make any progress there. It's been a rough road.
Very rough.
Yeah.
Very rough.
Do you see any? By the way, I misspoke. Bob had Marathon Oil up there. It's Marathon Petroleum that's the activist. I made that mistake a couple of times. My apologies. But back to Emerson. What do you think about something like that in terms of would you support what the activists are looking for here, which is still, by the way, somewhat unclear, but might involve them trying to split some things off, even though the company's not interested, from what I understand.
Well, they have two businesses that are not synergistic, and so they can make a case. In fact, I've always believed that after David Farr retired in 2021-22, that they would in fact split the company, but maybe it's going to come sooner than expected. He is a good CEO. He wants to create shareholder value. If nothing else, he will come up with a new restructuring plan, I firmly believe. And so when they reiterated guidance, I don't have to worry about earnings. I don't have to worry about them lowering numbers. I only have to maybe worry about something good happening, that they will actually see better profitability next year than what most people thought, because they'll make some changes.
All right. Well, Jim Bianco, thanks for joining us today. Stephanie, we're not letting you go just yet. But meantime, we've got some breaking news on vaping-related illnesses. Aditi Roy has those details. Aditi.
Morgan, the Centers for Disease Control have come out with a new number, the most updated number of the number of cases they're looking at. And right now, they say they're looking at 1,080 cases across 48 states. 18 deaths reported from this vaping-related illness. Those deaths are across 15 states. This is an increase of about 275 cases, and actually it is an increase of 275 cases since last week. The agency reports that the increase can be accounted for by both new cases and reporting of previously diagnosed cases. Most of these cases do involve THC-containing products. A small number contain only nicotine-containing products, and agency officials have also in the past pinpointed black market products in this the outbreak of this illness. However, there's been an incredible amount of regulatory scrutiny on e-cigarette company Juul. Just earlier today, Juul, the FTC actually announced that it would be continuing an investigation into Juul's marketing practices, not related to the vaping illness, of course, but Juul company spokesperson said, "We strongly agree with the need for aggressive category-wide action on flavored products. We will fully comply with the final FDA policy when effective." This illness, there's still no cause for this vaping-related illness. The investigation continues. Agency officials also said they do expect more cases to emerge in the coming weeks. Back to you guys.
Aditi Roy, thank you for bringing us the latest on this situation. Up next, we'll get a read on the consumer when Costco reports quarterly results. We'll break the numbers and get instant analysis as soon as those cross. Closing bell, we'll be right back.
Today, your information is more exposed than ever. When you shop, sign in, or browse, you could be vulnerable to cybercriminals. More online threats demand more protection. That's why new Norton 360 provides multiple layers of protection, combining device security, secure VPN, password manager, and cloud backup all in one solution. Get new Norton 360, starting at $24.99 for the first year.
Fortunately, there's only a 1 in 11 million chance of being bitten by a shark.
Ow! Ooh.
I'm lucky. Never mind, at Curry's PC World, there's a 1 in 10 chance to get half your money back on all 2019 LG OLED TVs, like the LG C9, described by Which as simply the best. Its OLED technology brings nature alive with astonishingly accurate colour and clarity, and there's up to £500 off. So the question is, are you feeling lucky? At Curry's PC World. T's and C's apply. GB16 plus. See currys.co.uk.
Did you know TuneIn doesn't just live here on your smart speaker? From the audio that moves you to the audio that gets you moving, soundtrack your every movement with the free TuneIn app. Available on your phone or tablet. Download TuneIn on the App Store today.
Welcome back to the closing bell. The state of the consumer in sharp focus following a slew of weak data in the U.S. this week. But some clues coming from earnings today as well. Pepsi and Constellation Brands topping estimates before the bell. For more on the state of the consumer, let's bring in Julia Coronado from Macro Policy Perspectives and Charles O'Shea from Moody's Investor Service. Also, Stephanie Link from Nuveen is still with us. Good afternoon to you all. Julia, I'll start with you. How would you gauge the health of the consumer here in the U.S., especially since some of the data points have been more mixed?
So the consumer still looks to be okay. The job numbers that we're seeing are still pretty healthy. And the service sector, I think the worrisome thing we saw today was cracks in the service sector, because the U.S. economy is mostly a service sector. We know the global manufacturing sector is in recession, and the U.S. won't be immune to that. But the service sector has been resilient to date. So to see the loss of momentum in the service sector, that's the worrisome aspect of the data.
Charles, I wonder if you think that all of this talk of the possibility of a recession, the fear of a recession, if that's something that's starting to spook the consumer, if that's a rising risk here?
It could be spooking. I don't know that the risk is necessarily, the risk equals what the consumer's thinking. I think that the consumer still has money to spend. They're still spending. We're looking at the top end of the food chain and retail, and those are the biggest and most financially flexible guys, the Walmarts, Costco's, Targets of the world, Best Buy, Amazon, and they're posting significant sales growth. So I don't think the consumer is as bad off as maybe some of the data would indicate, and I think the holiday is going to represent that.
Yeah, Stephanie, I mean, we had the CEO of UPS, David Abney, on Squawker Alley a little bit earlier in the week, and he gave his take on the global economy and did say that the consumer part of the U.S. economy does seem to continue to hold up, and was pretty optimistic, actually, about the peak holiday shipping season. Do we need to be taking a closer look, or I guess, are market watchers right now discounting just how strong the holidays could be?
I think the holidays are going to be fine. I think they might see a little bit lower momentum than what we've been seeing in terms of retail sales trends as of late. We talked about this last hour, that core retail sales in the month of August were up almost 7%, and that's very annualized. That's a very impressive number. It's supported by what Julia said, jobs, wages, and so that is also a lot of momentum behind the consumer. But I also am looking at housing. I mean, mortgage application rates. I mean, the housing market is just starting to inflect. Auto sales have not rolled over like people think. It's traded at about a 17 million SAAR in North America for the last 5 consecutive years. So I think that there are pieces and pockets of the consumer that remain very strong. Sure, it could weaken from here, but I still think this is the engine of the economy, and I think it's going to continue to get us out of the recession talk, if you will.
To that point, though, Julia, in particular, your mention of loss of momentum or cracks that perhaps were seen as a result of, or in today's report, what else should we be looking for, and where should we be looking to see if that is sustained?
I think we need to look on the firm side, on the business side. So the consumer is going to be, in some senses, the last one to know if we go into a recession. It's going to be the businesses that stop hiring because they're fearful, or they're seeing margin compression or a slowdown in global momentum. And if they stop hiring, then the consumer will become more cautious. The consumer's not going to lead this. They're not over-levered. They're feeling pretty good about the world. The labor market is strong. It's going to be the firms that would lead this if we do slip down that road.
And yet Jim Cramer had paychecks on yesterday, and they can't find jobs, is what his
Marty
comment
Musi
was.
quite positive.
He was very, very
and also
positive.
the tax withholding numbers still look pretty good. It's
Yeah.
a kind of a proxy for incomes. And I guess housing is the other piece of
Yeah.
it, which while it has not really been synced up with the overall cycle in every way this time around, I mean, it's very strong.
Well, this is where the Fed is actually having some good effect. We always talk about, the monetary policy is losing its punch, but it's actually turned housing around. Lower mortgage rates. We're going to have the first positive contribution to GDP from housing in 6 quarters in Q3. And that offsets some of the weakness in manufacturing. So the Fed's preemptive policies are having the desired effect.
Charles, speaking of employment, we're getting a number tomorrow. It is backward-looking, as Stephanie made the point earlier, but it's still taken as fairly important, particularly given how much focus right now is on the macroeconomy. What are your expectations?
David, that's a tough one. The employment numbers have been all over the map over the last several months. I know you guys talk to Mark Zandi a lot. Mark's got a much better handle on that than I have, but I will say that the low unemployment has really helped the consumer, obviously, but it's also helped the retailers on one end. But on the other end, wages are increasing, so that's putting some cost pressure on some of the retailers. And again, it continues to tilt the balance in favor of the bigger guys that can absorb these costs versus the smaller guys that can't.
Charles, where are folks spending their money? I mean, we're having this conversation about the fact that auto sales are still holding up somewhat, the fact that there's some strength and robustness in housing. But in terms of, I guess, the retail landscape, for example, where are consumers putting that money to work?
It's interesting. They're putting it to work in a lot of places. I mean, I think you see strength across categories. When you look at, say, a Best Buy, consumer electronics are still rolling along pretty well. When you look at Walmart, which sells the broadest probably mix out there, Walmart's robust, Target's robust. Target's private label, which is mostly apparel and home, is driving the growth there. There's all sorts of areas. Autos, as was said earlier, I cover the auto retail sector for Moody's, and while the sales are off a little bit, 17 million is still a big number when you go back. You know, this is the fifth year we're around a 17 handle. And these are stratospheric numbers historically. So I think the consumer spending in a lot of areas.
Well, we're going to get another read right now because the Costco earnings are out, and Leslie Picker has those numbers for us. Leslie.
Hey, Morgan. It is a miss on the top line for Costco. The company reported $47.5 billion for the fourth quarter, compared with $47.57 billion that analysts were estimating. On the bottom line, they reported $2.47 per share. However, that was negatively impacted by a charge of 22 cents per diluted share that was related to SG&A expenses. So it's unclear whether that's directly comparable with the analyst estimates of $2.54 per share. But you can see Costco shares selling off a bit in the after hours, trading down 1.7%. Back over to you.
Leslie, thank you. Stephanie, your quick take on these numbers? I know we're still digging through the report.
I don't really have a lot of metrics, but I mean, they did pre-announce before that revenues would be up 7.1%, looks like to be the case. 5.1% core comp, that's a good number. That's against a 7.5 comp last year. That's a pretty good showing for sure. What I want to see is margins. I think you can adjust for the one-time event, and that looks like a beat. So I don't, look, I said before that stock's up 42% year to date. It was vulnerable for a little selling. If it sells off materially, then I would be buying it, but it's a great story, and I don't think there's anything materially, wrong here. I just want to get through the margin numbers first.
Yeah, and Julia, I mean, I'm looking at the comp number for the U.S. specifically, and it looks like for the quarter it's up 6.2%, which I guess goes back to the conversation we were just having about the resilience.
Yeah, and money in the consumer's pockets. Again, wage growth is rising, consumer sentiment is strong. So as long as they're feeling like their job prospects are secure, they're going to keep spending on discretionary things like what Costco sells. So I do want to say one thing on the autos, though. The top line number is a little bit misleading because fleet
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us and giving us some instant reaction to these Costco numbers as well. Julia Coronado, Charles O'Shea, and Stephanie Link.
All right, up next, we're going to break down some charts. We're going to see if Wall Street has a profit problem on its hands as investors brace for earnings season.
Plus, find out why falling interest rates and stock market volatility could be a double bonus for the housing industry.
The relaxing sound of fresh, cold running water and you can have it in your kitchen. With amazing savings on Samsung fridge freezers at Currys PC World, like the RB31 with its chilled water dispenser for only $399. Or upgrade to the Samsung RS8000 American-style fridge freezer with water and ice dispenser. A huge 609 litres of storage space at just $104.9. How relaxing. At Currys PC World. Energy rating A+. T's and C's apply.
Catch the latest news as it happens with MSNBC on TuneIn. From American politics to global events, when breaking news hits, you'll never miss a moment again. Search MSNBC on TuneIn to hear the latest.
MLB is right here on TuneIn.
A swing and a drive to right field. That's it. Well, Ramirez back, and that ball's gone.
And to find it all, you need to search MLB on TuneIn.
By the wall, out of here.
Home and away calls are a click away on TuneIn Premium.
Next time you look up at the stars, think about this.
Inside you are the remains of a stellar explosion. You are made of stardust. And without the stars, there wouldn't be us.
I'm Guy Raz, the wonders of the universe and the people who still look up every night. Next time on the TED Radio Hour from NPR. You can subscribe to the TED Radio Hour on TuneIn.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to discover what's happening in the app and around the world. Be the first to know about upcoming games and the hottest new music. Follow at TuneIn and always be in the know.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium.
Fake the pro size, no, the ham size. He breaks 3 down to the 5.
Yes, call it the 20 to the 15 to the 10. 5, touchdown.
Tonight, hear the home and away call as the Los Angeles Rams visit the Seattle Seahawks at 8:20 p.m. Eastern.
Right up the middle, touchdown.
Trying to dive, touchdown.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
ESPN Radio and TuneIn just go hand in hand. Hi, this is Mel Kiper Jr. reminding you that all of your favorite ESPN Radio shows and events are right here on TuneIn. Just search ESPN Radio to begin enjoying today.
Cycle would end with a whip. Now it's here. From this point on, you can't afford to own any of the newly minted money-losing IPOs because what you'll do is you'll lose money.
Welcome back to the closing bell. Let's send it over to Mike Santoli for his third dashboard of the day. Mike.
Morgan, calling this one low pressure system because the question here when looking at the market is how much pressure implicitly are investors putting on companies to show some earnings growth in the coming, let's say, 1 year. This is from Goldman Sachs. This is a measure of the implied earnings growth in the valuation of the stock market versus bonds. David Costin over at Goldman Sachs keeps this. So what this basically means is if you do all the math related to what a normal fair valuation would be of stocks versus bonds and say, what is the market now implying? It's implying low single digits earnings growth right now for the future 5 years. So that's a relatively modest expectation. As you can see, came way down here from, let's say, going back toward last year. That's probably positive because right now the published forecasts for next year are still up toward 10%. That would imply that there's some room for those estimates to come down before really spooking the market. But the other observation to make is that the market was really cheap in here relative to what earnings ended up doing. So basically, this was your opportunity to really get great forward returns because the market was underestimating what companies can do. And now it's more of a little bit of an even bet right now. But at least I think it tells you that the market is not really pricing in tremendous acceleration and growth from here, guys.
Yeah, it really puts it in
a little bit
perspective. And of course, this is David Costin. It is the S&P and not the Dow. Going back to our conversation this morning.
Yes, this morning. Yes.
Mike Santoli, thank you. Up next, we will discuss how investors can protect their portfolio amid all this market volatility when we speak to the CEO of online brokerage startup, Doe.
And tomorrow, don't miss, it's an exclusive interview on the economy, the outlook for interest rates. Oh, who knows where else they'll go when we're joined exclusively by the Cleveland Fed president, Loretta Mester.
This CNBC program is sponsored by...
The chance of being abducted by aliens is about 1 in 7 million. Oh, unlucky. Never mind, at Curry's PC World, there's a 1 in 10 chance to get half your money back on all 2019 LG OLED TVs, like the LG C9, described by which as simply the best. Its Dolby Atmos gives you a surround sound experience that's out of this world, and there's up to £500 off. So the question is, are you feeling lucky at Curry's PC World? T's and C's apply. GB16 plus. See currys.co.uk.
Want to know what's happening in right now? The latest headlines are just a tap away with Fox News Talk on TuneIn. When news breaks, get up-to-the-minute coverage on developing stories from around the world. Plus, hear all the Fox shows you watch on your TV. Listen to Fox News Talk around the clock on TuneIn. Make sure to follow TuneIn today, so you're always in the know. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just search @TuneIn.
Did you know your favorite radio stations are in your pocket? Yes, the TuneIn app lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio anywhere you want. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Hi, this is Brian Weber, host of NFL First and Goal every Sunday, kicking off at 1 Eastern only on TuneIn Premium. Be sure to listen this Sunday for the ultimate football fan experience, featuring 7 hours of commercial-free coverage of every scoring play around the NFL.
ESPN Radio and TuneIn just go hand in hand. Hi, this is Mel Kiper Jr. reminding you that all of your favorite ESPN radio shows and events are right here on TuneIn. Just search ESPN Radio to begin enjoying today.
Next time you look up at the stars, think about this.
Inside you are the remains of a stellar explosion. You are made of stardust. And without the stars, there wouldn't be us.
I'm Guy Raj, the wonders of the universe and the people who still look up every night. Next time on the TED Radio Hour from NPR. You can subscribe to the TED Radio Hour on TuneIn.
College football is live on TuneIn. Listen for free to games from more than 140 schools all season long.
To the 10, all the way to the checkerboard. Somebody stays on his feet and scores.
What's happening in college football this week, this Saturday? The scoreboard will be working overtime as Sam Ehlinger brings his vaunted Texas Longhorns passing attack to West Virginia for a Big 12 conference matchup against the Mountaineers. The action starts at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Just search college to listen today.
Welcome back. It is time now for CNBC News Update with Sue Herrera. Sue.
Hello, Morgan. Hello, everyone. Here's what's happening at this hour. A lawyer involved in the college admission scandal will serve time. Gordon Kaplan was sentenced to 1 month in prison for bribing a college counselor to get his daughter into college. He paid the counselor $75,000 to allow his daughter to cheat on the ACTs. He will also serve 1 year of house arrest, pay a $50,000 fine, and perform 250 hours of community service. First Lady Melania Trump traveling to Wyoming as part of her Be Best initiative. She met with scouts and passed out Every Kid Outdoor passes as a way to get students to visit the national parks. At a conference in Washington on enforcing the nation's securities laws, Attorney General William Barr began by joking about his recent travels.
I was out touring a state yesterday, and all day people were yelling these questions at me. I only answered one. They yelled out, "What country are you going to next, Mr. Barr?" And I said, "Greenland."
You are up to date. That's the news update this hour. I'll send it back downtown to you, David.
I got it. I think I got it. All right, stocks. Thank you, Sue. Stocks having a roller coaster week. We have the Dow finishing higher by 123 points today. This after it lost more than 800 points. That was between Tuesday and Wednesday's sessions. For more on this market volatility, let's bring in Victor Jones. He's the CEO of Dow, a former director of trading and operations at TD Ameritrade. Nice to have you, Victor. What do you make of this market right now, and what are you seeing amongst your customer base?
Well, I think the rally into the end of the day was certainly impressive, but I mean, if you take equity prices out of the equation, you look at other asset classes, it kind of seems like the market is still pricing in a continuation of global slowdown. I mean, if you take a look at the 10-year at 1.6%, crude off 30% for the year, copper down 8%, and gold up 25%. I mean, it's hard not to think about what could potentially happen with a reversal in the economic cycle. And we've been helping our younger investors at Doe to understand that they tend to have lower cash allocations, around 10%, what that risk concept means and how to potentially utilize higher cash allocations during these periods of time.
Victor, tell me a little bit more about Doe. It's a new commission-free online broker. You recently started it up. How is it different from what else is out there in the marketplace right now, especially given all the cuts we've seen by the online brokers this week?
Certainly. It's a great question. I want to address both of those points. I mean, when we started out over a year ago, we believed that paying commission to trade stock would be about as common as paying for a landline telephone. It just wasn't going to be the case. And building a firm where your sole value proposition was commission-free trading wasn't an option for us either. So we are a commission-free, mobile-first investing application first and foremost. But beyond that, we are all about context. We believe if you provide access to the markets, it's your responsibility to provide context. And that's why we also provide an app filled with smart ideas to help people with better decision-making and risk-reward trade-offs in the marketplace.
But Victor, we just saw this incredible move in the marketplace this week. It started with Charles Schwab cutting those commissions down to zero. You had E-Trade and TD Ameritrade, your old employer, following suit as well. How do you compete?
Here's what I would say. It's about time. I mean, if you really take a look, the larger brokerages, the consequences were immediately apparent. You got $19 billion in market cap that were essentially erased since September 25th. Just a few days ago, and you also have $1.5 billion of anticipated revenue that is now going back into the hands of everyday investors. So we at Doe, we have, since our inception, we believed in commission-free stock trading. We believe that was the best way to engage our community. It was the best way to engage our customers. And so we welcome the competition, certainly, and we'll continue to provide what we do so well, which is contextualize the marketplace. And that's, I would say, what we also do is we're founded on years of expertise. And you just mentioned I come from TD Ameritrade. Our team comes from Merrill, comes from Goldman Sachs. We come from across the industry. Our parent company led the revolution in lower price commissions as well. So our continued work in this space, it's not going to stop here, and we'll continue to innovate for our customers.
Victor, Charles Schwab and its established competitors, they're coming at this move to zero commissions from a position of having very large customer balances. They earn a lot of net interest off of those balances. They have other revenue streams that they're falling back on. Now, I assume you guys with a mobile app that's offering commission-free trading are going to also tap some of those revenue streams, whether selling the order flow or perhaps lending on margin and things like that. Is that going to be enough to create a real business, though, for you?
Well, look, here's what I would say. I think the benefit of what's transpired over the last couple of days is it's brought this idea that many of these firms were making 70 to 90% of their overall revenue outside of trading or stock commissions, rather. And so there is money to be made or ways to monetize the new business models. If anything, these pricing changes are validation of fintechs like ours who have challenged those traditional industry models. And you're going to see things like stock, obviously, is a now nearly commoditized asset that people are giving away for free. But the value is in the experience, the comprehensive value that you can offer your users, as well as the speed with which you can innovate. That's what we can do at Doe. We have world-class engineers and a world-class technology team. And we're going to continue to innovate at speeds that our competitors simply can't keep up with.
Final question I got to ask you as somebody who worked at TD Ameritrade for a long time. Don't know if you owned any stock, but does that 33% decline overall in the market value make sense to you, Victor?
Well, I think if you take a look at what these commissions meant to them in terms of overall revenue, it's fairly in line. And, what these companies lost in market cap were relatively in line with what those revenues meant to their bottom line. So I wish we respect all of our competitors. We wish them the best. And really this week is about celebrating the everyday investor because they now get to enjoy higher returns without paying the fees. And that's what we believe in here at Doe.
All right. Well, appreciate you joining us. Thank you. Victor Jones from Doe. Still ahead, the home builders rallying nearly 50% this year. Up next, find out why recent turmoil in the broader market could be good news for housing stocks.
Plus, investing in space. Coming up, we will speak with the CEO of one company making big bets on the final frontier. Stay with us.
The chance of being abducted by aliens is about 1 in 7 million. Oh, unlucky. Never mind, at Curry's PC World, there's a 1 in 10 chance to get half your money back on all 2019 LG OLED TVs, like the LG C9, described by which as simply the best. Its Dolby Atmos gives you a surround sound experience that's out of this world, and there's up to £500 off. So the question is, are you feeling lucky at Curry's PC World? T's and C's apply. GB16 plus. See currys.co.uk.
What if you could keep up with cable news even when you're on the go? With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to MSNBC live without any commercial interruptions. All of the news, none of the ads. Listen live on TuneIn Premium today.
Here's a swing and a drive deep to right field. Looking up. Goodbye, baseball.
Between game-winning shots and walk-off homers, follow TuneIn on social media to discover the latest and greatest in live sports.
With the 24th pick in the 2019 NFL Draft.
From live reminders that the biggest MLB games are on the air, to recommendations of the best new sports talk shows and podcasts.
He's going to be fine. He's going to be good right away in 3 years.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
In the dictionary, a podcast is this: a digital audio file made available on the internet, typically as a series, of which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Rachel Martin with David Green, and this is Up First from NPR News.
And it's defined like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
From news, sports, to pop culture, comedy, and beyond. Define your own podcast possibilities on TuneIn.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium.
Fake the pro size, no, the ham size. He breaks 3 down to the 5. Yes, call it there. Oh, 20 to the 15 to the 10. 5, touchdown.
Tonight, hear the home and away call as the Los Angeles Rams visit the Seattle Seahawks at 8:20 p.m. Eastern.
Right up the middle. Touchdown.
Trying to dive, touchdown.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
ESPN Radio and TuneIn just go hand in hand. Hi, this is Mel Kiper Jr. reminding you that all of your favorite ESPN radio shows and events are right here on TuneIn. Just search ESPN Radio to begin enjoying today.
Welcome back. This week's market volatility weighing on equity investors. But could the big winner end up being the housing sector? Diana Olick, joins us now with more. Diana.
Hey, Morgan. Look, fall homebuyers are getting a bonus with falling bond yields causing an unexpected turnaround in mortgage rates. Take a look. The average on the 30-year fixed is now down about 1.25 percentage points from a year ago. That's about $225 less on a monthly payment on a $300,000 mortgage. And that's real money for today's cash-strapped buyers, especially first-time buyers. Lower rates are boosting the builders. We saw a nice beat on new orders from Lennar, and Chairman Stuart Miller pointed squarely to lower interest rates as the driver, saying it repeatedly during the analyst call. Back to you guys.
Diana, thank you. Diana Olick. Well, still ahead, the countdown to jobs. Yeah, it's on. We're going to tell you what to watch for ahead of that key report tomorrow.
And coming up on Fast Money, Bank of America's head rates strategist says the Fed will disappoint the market. He's going to explain that.
When we chose independence,
today, your information is more exposed than ever. When you shop, sign in, or browse, you could be vulnerable to cybercriminals. More online threats demand more protection. That's why new Norton 360 provides multiple layers of protection, combining device security, secure VPN, password manager, and cloud backup all in one solution. Get new Norton 360, starting at $24.99 for the first year.
The chance of being hurt while using a leaf blower is about 3,000 to 1. Ooh, unlucky. Never mind, at Curry's PC World, there's a 1 in 10 chance to get half your money back on all 2019 LG OLED TVs, like the LG C9, described by which as simply the best. Get blown away with Apple AirPlay, Google Assistant, and Amazon Alexa built in. And there's up to £500 off. So the question is, are you feeling lucky at Curry's PC World. T's and C's apply. GB16 plus. See currys.co.uk.
Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
ESPN Radio and TuneIn just go hand in hand. Hi, this is Mel Kiper Jr. reminding you that all of your favorite ESPN radio shows and events are right here on TuneIn. Just search ESPN Radio to begin enjoying today.
Deep left center field. A grand slam!
October baseball is here, and TuneIn Premium is your ticket to the 2019 MLB postseason. Featuring the home and away feeds for every game, TuneIn Premium delivers every call of the ALCS, NLCS, and the 2019 World Series through the voices of the local radio broadcast
In
teams.
the air, left field and deep. He's at the wall.
Now until a new champion is crowned, hear every play of the 2019 MLB postseason live on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
In the dictionary, a podcast is this: a digital audio file made available on the internet, typically as a series, of which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Rachel Martin with David Green, and this is Up First from NPR News.
And it's defined like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
From news, sports, to pop culture, comedy, and beyond. Define your own podcast possibilities on
who during the course of the break explained what at least that first one meant to me. Thank you for doing that, Mike. Finish us off now.
It's Mean Girls Day, October 3rd. As
These two got it, and I did not, which is really...
The value of teen and tween daughters, I think, is being shown here. Butterfly effect, though. Obviously, one of the big questions in the market is how much weakness in economies overseas might be felt in the U.S. This chart out of Cantor Fitzgerald suggests pretty tight linkage. This goes back very far, of course, 1966. It's where it starts. But it shows even during this cycle, the orange is global GDP. It actually has been kind of leading U.S. GDP, which is in blue right here. Last time we saw something like this, of course, you got 2011 and 12, and then in 2016. I guess the question here is what would be an acceptable outcome of this downturn for the U.S. markets? If we kind of stop around here in the 1.5% range, slightly slower than we've been this year, perhaps that's what the market is already sniffing out. But it is an indication that the idea that the U.S. economy can completely go in the other direction from the rest of the world is probably a long shot, guys.
All right. Mike Santoli, thank you. Still ahead, betting big on space. We'll hear from the CEO of one company with something that's out of this world, investments.
And don't miss our...
I think I said that wrong.
Our exclusive sit-down. I really can't wait. Can you? So I've had to tease it now at least 4 or 5 times. Loretta Mester, 4 p.m. tomorrow, right here on the closing bell.
Can you custom?
The MLB is in full swing.
Looking up, and this one is up and out. A home run.
Swung on and into the air to deep left. That ball is high. That is far. That is gone.
To listen, just search MLB Today on TuneIn Premium so you don't miss a moment of the games on TuneIn.
At home or on the go, stay up to date on the latest news and political trends with Fox's full lineup of shows. Plus, when news breaks, Fox has you covered with live updates and expert analysis on the biggest developing stories. Listen to Fox News Talk anytime on TuneIn.
What if you could keep up with cable news even when you're on the go? With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to MSNBC live without any commercial interruptions. All of the news, none of the ads. Listen live on TuneIn Premium today.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio on the app. Explore exclusive content. Learn about hot new podcasts and get alerted when the big game, well, it's about to begin. Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
ESPN Radio and TuneIn just go hand in hand. Hi, this is Mel Kiper Jr. reminding you that all of your favorite ESPN radio shows and events are right here on TuneIn. Just search ESPN Radio to begin enjoying today.
Hi, this is Brian Weber, host of NFL First and Goal every Sunday, kicking off at 1 Eastern only on TuneIn Premium. Be sure to listen this Sunday for the ultimate football fan experience, featuring 7 hours of commercial-free coverage of every scoring play around the NFL.
TuneIn puts you on the sideline for the 2019 college football season free all year long. With college football on TuneIn, hear the home and away call for more than 140 schools live, regular season matchups and rivalry games, conference championships and bowl games, the college football playoff.
Throw it. He's got it on stiff arm. End zone. Touchdown.
You can listen to it all for free at home, on campus, or on the road. Hear the excitement and pageantry of college football all season long, free on TuneIn.
Those zeros really add up.
A new season, new surroundings, and a #1 overall makes his Wednesday night hockey debut. Devils, Flyers, 7:30 Eastern on NBCSN.
Attention if you have an annuity or structured settlement. It's your right to sell your annuity payments for the cash you need now. Call the Peachtree Pros. They've been helping people for over 20 years and are professionals at buying structured settlements. It's your money to use for a new car, housing, or to manage debt. If you have a structured settlement and need cash now, call